it's been a while. Probably don't recognize me. But I am the Star Wars side. And we're talking about Star Wars issue 19 by Charles Soule. Yeah! So, yeah, I have been in sort of a Star Wars slump for the past couple of months. And it really just came about by there just being no real interesting Star Wars stuff to consume. You know, I've gone through a bit of the High Republic stuff, not doing it for me. The Mandalorian, I'll be honest, I started watching The Mandalorian because, well, this scene here, I was like, oh, I should probably watch this now. And it's not bad, but I'm really just here for that. Because that to me is what's cool about Star Wars. Space wizards. And, you know, The Mandalorian, he's cool, it's alright. Just not what I'm into, so I'm just watching it casually. You know, I haven't binged it. Like, I legit binged all of Dinosaur these past 2 weeks. And, yeah, I've had more fun doing that than with The Mandalorian. I dropped off the comics for a bit. So, I just sort of came on this one like a passing fancy. I was like, okay, well, let's see what they're doing. Because the recent Bounty Hunter stuff, I don't care about Bounty Hunters. I just don't. I get it. They're cool. They're fun. But not for me. Not me. No. So, read the presents here, and apparently the whole Bounty Hunter story, that's done. The Rebellion has been able to acquire most of their scattered forces, still some left behind, which they're focused on getting, as well as focusing on finding Shara Bray, who is still held upon the starship Tarkin, and Shara being Poe's mom, so yeah, we set that up. Vice Holdo, I believe she's still Holdo at this point, Captain Holdo, who has somehow found her way in here along with Poe's family into the greater Star Wars, which is a bit weird to me because I wasn't quite sure how old Holdo was supposed to be in the context of The Last Jedi. Is she the same age as Leia, older than Leia, younger than Leia? Would have been cool if she was younger than Leia, and we'd have had this sort of differing viewpoint on studying under Leia from Holdo and Poe. We make that more of a story instead of just Holdo being this. Like, Holdo should have been introduced earlier in Star Wars in the smaller materials to set her up in future materials, namely The Last Jedi. Therefore, we okay, we know a little about Holdo, not too much about Holdo, but whatever. And Luke is listening to all this, and he's like, you know what? I'm kind of done here. I kind of am. And he doesn't really say it that way, but what he's focusing on is like, you know, the last time, at least as far as I remember, I believe he does have an encounter with Vader after the events of Empire Strikes Back in this story, which I'll need to go to. We'll have to do a comic run talk on Marvel Star Wars, aren't we? We probably are. But anyway, he talks later like, look, that last little scuffle, making my 2 fights with Vader, I have not been doing well. My training has been slacking, and for some reason, I have not just gone back to Dagobah. I don't think that is the right course of action. Primarily because Return of the Jedi says I haven't been back to Dagobah. So I need to focus on continuing my training, studying more. R2 found a list of Imperial locations, of Jedi artifacts. Maybe I can go and find some stuff there. And Leia's like, it's probably where you need to go. It's probably for the best, because she remembers when he found his new lightsaber. And that's inspired the whole rebellion pretty much. Like, we can keep going. Yeah, we've got a Jedi with us. And Leia's like, that's a powerful symbol, and I think a better Jedi, you being better at being a space wizard, can only benefit all of us. So I'll cover for you. You go do that. So he goes, and he arrives at places like Ilum. You know, if you're new to Star Wars, you may not know too much about Ilum. Ilum is where most, if not all, Jedi go to build their first lightsabers. Just build their lightsabers in general, because you can get crystals there. It was an important location in Jedi Fallen Order. But Luke's like, you know what? This place used to be important, and now it's not. Now it's not. We gotta go. Other places like Lothal, who you may have remembered from Star Wars Rebels, that's there, but that temple can't be raised again. And there's a lot of duds. Then finally we get to Mount Pazval. Pazvul? And Luke goes through. He's still trying to cover his face because he is still at a pretty important Imperial target. You know, man who blew up the Death Star. has escaped Darth Vader at least 3 separate times, meaning he's escaped the Empire 3 separate times. Like, no, So he goes in. He looks a bit like a Jedi here. It's kind of cool to see him like that. And then when he goes up to these stormtroopers, he's like, okay, so we're going to use some of the old Jedi mysticism. And a really cool scene here, he tries to do the Jedi mind trick with his hand, and he gets flashes of his hand being cut off and his prosthetic. And it doesn't work. So this could mean 2 things. So 1, the obvious, he's still not over what happened to him. He's still afraid. Or 2, this has been an important thing. The Force is generated through living tissue. So his hand, his prosthetic hand, doesn't have any Force-sensitive tissue in it. So it's possibly created like a mental block where he can't quite use the Force from that hand. He can use it from the last bit of actual flesh there. That's one of the reasons why Darth Vader's suit had to be made so quickly to preserve his living tissue, as opposed to just going the Grievous route and just, that. So anyway, Luke wanders off, feeling a bit like a failure again. He comes across a man who was tinkering with his ship, and the guy says, so I recognize this ship. The whole panel is from a Delta 7 Aether Sprite the Jedi used to fly during the Clone Wars, to which he invites him in and tells him what's going on, tells him about him. That a Jedi saved his life once when he was a kid. Jedi named Kirak Infila. Infile? I don't know. But it's the dude from the Star Wars Darth Vader comic when Vader needed a new lightsaber. The guy undergoing the Barash vow? Yeah, so this was the kid who said, like, hey, Kirak said, hey, you know what, maybe when my mission's done, I'll come back and I'll teach you about the Force. So it turns out this kid survived. His parents got him on the ship. He and his sister escaped. And Coley's been waiting for years to be able to repay the Jedi for that. So finding out that Luke wants to, try to finish his Jedi training or further it and find some artifacts, Coley tells him about, hey, so there's a base down there where the stormtroopers are keeping a bunch of stuff for the Empire. And Luke needs to figure out how to get down there. So first he thinks about, well, I could go in guns blazing. And this is the scene that got me. This is the scene that got me to want to read more Star Wars again. He ignites his lightsabers. He's like, I could just really let go. They wouldn't be able to stop me. I could cut right through them. And he turns his lightsaber off and hands it to R2, saying, like, you keep this for me. And he sits and meditates, focusing himself. He walks up to the stormtroopers, and he successfully does the mind trick, like, you will bring me the most important artifact you have stored here. And the dudes bring it. I was like, wow. I'm like, okay, this is so cool. This is so cool, like, he did it. Some bitch did it. But anyway, it turns out the item the stormtroopers had was a holocron, and so he activates it, and the Jedi this holocron belonged to was Master Yoda. And I'm like, oh, whoa, okay. So, why is this story so good? Well, first of all, we're back to Luke being Luke again. My biggest problem with Last Jedi, if you remember, was that it totally butchered his character. And again, I'm not harping that he did what he did. I'm harping about how they went about him doing it. And this story here, whether they think it or not, I think it's, again, contradicts the Luke we know in the Last Jedi. Because this Luke has a moment like, hey, I could just force my way through, but no, that is not the way to do this. That is not the best way to do this. So he centers himself, and he meditates, and he comes back clear, and he gets what he needs. And no one knows he was there. If he'd cut his way through, someone would have reported that to the Empire, and he'd have been running for his life again. Here, he goes the Jedi route, and he's rewarded. And this answers a question a lot of people had. How does Luke continue his training if he doesn't go back to study with Yoda? And how? Well, he has a holocron from Yoda. I think it was a bit much to have it be Yoda's holocron. It could have been like any other Jedi. Could have been Ben Kenobi, could have been Mace Windu, could have been Shaak Ti, could have been Kit Fisto, could have been Thome, could have been Kirak, could have been Revan. Watch people lose their minds over being Revan. But no, this was still good. And again, this is why I want to read Star Wars again. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to read everything from their post-New Hope stuff, and we're gonna try to get back into the groove of things with that. And also, we're probably going to be trying to do weekly comic book reviews again. I saw a channel, the Cerebros, really cool channel. You should probably check it out. And he just goes through his the comics he read. If I do it, I'm gonna have to pick up where I left off. But anyway, with that in mind, let's bring this video to close here. If you're new to the Bucket Thing, feel like, comment, share, subscribe. What's your favorite bit of Star Wars content in recent years? Or just the past year? Let me know in the comment section. I'll catch you all later. This is Bucket Think signing off. Thanks for watching. Like the Force, may your fandom serve you well. All right. It's a nightmare to get out of that thing.